Coming up on the FRC Open Alliance show, it's 7407 Wired Boars who are going to be on from Connecticut, talk about some of their progress for things. I think this team always brings something innovative and cool every single year, and this year definitely with that as well too. Not only are they doing that twin spindexer, but you got to look at how the top of that indexer actually is. It's rotating separately in a different direction. I think is really cool and a neat solution to figure out some of the jamming issues that many teams might experience as well too. They call it the Twirlygig, by the way, which I think is great. A lot of other great stuff we talking about, some of their strategic priorities, intake and extending hopper overview, diving a little bit more into programming on Choreo and what they're doing for some initial autonomous modes. It's a lot of great stuff to dive into here on the FRC Open Alliance show. This video on fun is brought to you by our viewers, supporters, members, and also in partnership with the following. Osh Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Osh Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or plot pattern to get started. Founded by First alumni, FRC Tees understands what teams need. High-quality apparel fast. From t-shirts to jackets and more, with a free 14-day turnaround and faster options available, you can join 200-plus teams who are already saving. Get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frctees.com. Well, we're back for another week of the Open Alliance show. We're welcoming back in a team we've had for many years. It's 7407 Wired Boars coming out of Connecticut. It's always great to see you all and to showcase your progress for it. So why don't you two introduce yourselves? I know we got a lot of people that will be coming on camera that we'll meet over the course of this, but let us know who you are, what you do in the team, and let's hop right into your progress.
Yeah, I'm Eben. I am the team captain and programming lead.
I'm Zoe. I'm a CAD subsystems lead.
And we're going to start by talking about robot functional requirements, strategic priorities, and our robot archetype. So I'm just going to go over some of our functional requirements of the robot and our general strategy. So what we're thinking is that we want to be able to hold a lot of balls, and our general strategy is like we want to be the scoring robot. So collecting from our alliance zone, collecting from the neutral zone, and passing them into our alliance zone, and then prioritizing ball through, because we think that that's the most important thing in this game. And so throughout the rest of our robot design, you're really going to see that prioritizing that ball throughput over everything else. In terms of climbing, the climb is kind of a secondary priority for us. We want to make sure that we have an L1 climb at some point in the season, and then the L3 climb maybe could be a later add-on, depending on if we have space for it or not, but as of right now, we're not really pursuing that.
As for some specifics, we've decided to not go under the trench to go under the trench and avoid defense and have options for movement. And I know a big debate across the FRC world is whether to do a turret or not. And as a team, we've decided not to do one just for the complexity and to maximize the throughput of the balls.
So based on all that, our robot archetype for this year is going to be a double fixed shooter. Shooting over the intake direction. We think that that will really allow us to, as I said before, maximize the amount of balls per second that we can score. Because we think, again, that's the most important thing in this game for us. And so you can see here just a general, what we have so far in CAD, our twindexer, which we're going to hear about in just a second, and then the over-the-bumper intake, and then the ramp up into the shooter tower. All right, so now we're going to swap over and hear about the twindexer.
Hi, I'm Trip, a CAD lead.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a subsystems lead for the twindexer.
And we're going to be talking about our indexing system. So, as you can see on the screen, we settled with a two-shooter system, and we struggled a lot with figuring out what kind of indexer we would want to have and how we would package it. As we saw that the spindexers were very effective from what other teams were prototyping and some of our own, we tried to see how we could package two in our robot. We took inspiration from a Chinook helicopter and how they vertically staggered their blade paths. And so that's how we staggered the spinning floors for our twindexer. Here's one of the first prototypes we had. This had spinning floors and brushes, And although we tried a few different things like TPU tabs, we found that brushes and spinning floors were the most effective and that they package really well into how we wanted our robot to end up looking.
All right, so recently we've been pivoting toward a what we're starting to call a twirlygig, as the technical term is a coaxial reversing gearbox. And so this allows us to essentially have the bottom of the hub, as seen here, the main part that the balls contact while actually on the floors, and the top of the hub, which essentially serves as an agitator to spin in different directions. We noticed that with our twindexer, if we had the brushes high up like we did in a few of our prototypes, the balls would clump up toward the front of the indexer, and it would just like, kind of cause some clumping and lower our throughput. So we're going to prototype now, and we think it'll work better to have balls at the top of the walls kind of be pushed toward the back of the indexer and its wheels. So that'll allow the balls to kind of serialize a little bit better. And so we're going to have a visual demonstration now of what the twirlygig does. So you guys can see that it's spinning in one direction on the bottom and a different direction on the top. And so we actually achieved this through some rotating bevel gears. So you can see in this little GIF here that you have your top gears attached to the top and the bottom parts of the hub. And then you have your pinions on the side that are actually mounted to a dead axle. And so what happens is when the bottom spins, it spins the top in a kind of reversing motion. And so, yeah, we're really excited to try that.
I just got to ask him, like, this is really, really cool. We've talked to maybe a couple of our teams who've done that, like the spindexer thing, but having this, this dual rotation in a couple different areas, like when you were doing something like, I guess, other than looking at a chin hook, right? Like, what were some of the other like inspirations between coming up with this? Was it just because you were getting the jamming that you were trying to find a new solution, or where did this really come from?
Well, we knew we wanted to do a double shooter as opposed to a turret. And although strategies that have been successful in the past, like hot dog rollers, are a lot simpler, we saw that spindexers were really effective, and we wanted to see if we could make that work for a double shooter.
So
and then
just to follow up on that, so the gear, I guess my question is, like the gearing housing that you're showing right now, and those are rotating different ways on that. That's more of what I'm looking at. Like,
yeah, so we really were just looking at, kind of slow motion videos of our prototypes. And that was what we found to be, kind of a bottleneck, was the balls clumping at the front and then just causing them to sort of serialize a little bit less clean. And so the serialization of the spindexer is really its main strength. And so we want to maximize that, right? So if you can get the balls to really get into that nice path, you should be able to maximize your throughput for each respective side.
Sure.
Hey, I'm Finley. I'm a member of the CAD sub-team.
My name is Alexander. I'm a CAD sub-lead.
So we are both working on the intake right now. We went through a lot of different prototypes for this. We started out with some early ones, like the one you see here. We first found the position of that front roller. So we knew that we wanted it to be a certain distance from the bumper and a certain distance from the ground. And so we made a prototype to find that. And then with the kicker, we found the position of that, and we made it rest against the bumper. And this is all in mind that it will be pivoting. So we wanted to make sure that that was accessible in the ways that we wanted. So we prototyped around that and found the position and the geometry of these rollers. But these were all operated with a drill. And so eventually when we found enough of this geometry, we made a more advanced prototype. Now this prototype, as you can see, it's being driven by motors, and it is very effective. We see it driving around. We're pretty happy with the way that it's picking up the balls in a pretty orderly fashion, and it's not really having any issues in that respect. The only thing we notice is when you get to the corners of this arena that we have, it's trouble picking up the ones that are stuck in like little nooks and crannies. But other than that, we were pretty happy with the way that it turned out. And again, it's resting up against the bumper, which we'll be able to pivot out to. And then the only problems we really noticed is when we started picking up large amounts of balls at the same time. And this is going to be more accurate to what we're going to see during a game. And the initial signs were not great, but upon further inspection, we noticed a couple things that were pretty easy fixes that could make this more efficient. For example, the side plates that we're using to make this intake were blocking the balls. So we've made cutouts there so the balls can be intook from the side as opposed to being bumped up against the plate there. On top of that, we noticed that was really the main cause of our problems. And after one was getting blocked, the next one was, it was causing this big chain reaction of problems. But the ones that initially got picked up right at the front without having that chain reaction, we were really happy with those balls and their intake.
Yeah, so after the prototyping stage, and when we got our geometry figured out, we moved on to making sketches of the actual geometry that will be the final that will go on the actual robot. So on the left, this sketch is kind of our sketch that we had for the first version that was mounted on the robot. So we tried to model like the motion of the fuel as best we could with these constructing circles. You see the kicker bar on the bottom, and then our top roller and a bottom roller, or our leading edge roller. And then on the right, that's the sketch that fits into our full robot geometry master sketch. So this includes kind of our pivot, kind of on the left side of it. You can see that's where the pivot would be, and then modeling our additional geometry that we had from our prototyping phase. That's kind of just put in, along with the space for like markers for how far we can extend to like the 12 feet or 12 inches to the outside of frame perimeter. And then another interesting thing about our intake design is we wanted it to be able to link to the motion of the extending hopper. To do this, we kind of wanted to have like a pin that would kind of sit on the intake plate and a slot that would be in the extendable hopper. So that way that when the pin would move forward, that lateral motion would transfer into the extension of the like linearly sliding hopper. So the details on like specific shape of the slot, like whether or not, because it wouldn't necessarily have to be vertical, that's not really final, but this GIF right here kind of shows the motion of what we kind of want to achieve with the pivoting action of the intake and the sliding of the extendable hopper.
The last thing I wanted to cover was just a general overview of our preliminary thoughts on autonomous strategy. So I put together this short video here where our plan for auto is to go to the neutral zone, potentially up to 2 times during the autonomous period, and then climbing at the end. So this video kind of shows just the differences between a trench auto and versus going over the bump in auto. One thing you'll notice is that we're not even stopping to shoot the initial 8 preloaded balls because we want to make sure we can get to the neutral zone as quick as possible. The reason why I wanted to examine these 2 different autos going through the trench versus over the bump is because there was some thought that maybe going over the bump would be significantly faster in terms of driving time. But from what I've found just doing some testing in Choreo, it doesn't look like there's going to be that much of a difference in driving time. Both of these paths where you go to the neutral zone twice and then go and climb are about 11 seconds long based on the settings I've configured right now, which leaves you 9 seconds for shooting twice and then climbing at the end, which I think based on our goals for shooter throughput is pretty reasonable. Yeah, and that was it. That was all I had for programming right now.
Okay. So looking, from programming side of things on there, there's a lot of obviously variations to look at in terms of, where are other robots going to go, that sort of thing. How does your team strategically plan to say, hey, like, we know we're going to have alliance partners on it. How do you figure out like multiple different autos? Is that just all done through Choreo, or are you doing some other options to figure that out?
Yeah, we're probably going to do a similar strategy as we did in 2024, which is just having a lot of different options for autos that we can run. In 2024, we did like closely examine how long different teams, either alliance partners or even opponents, were taking to get to the midline and that kind of thing. So if we know that we can beat them to the midline, we can run that auto, but we could also have a different auto that goes to a different spot depending on if we think they're going to get there faster. As for working with Alliance partners, we plan to have autos that can be run on either side of the field, and mostly just staying on our own side, so that we're hopefully not conflicting with Alliance partners. And for the climb in auto, we'd like to be able to climb just on the 6-inch outer part of the tower, so that we can leave as much room as possible for another partner to potentially climb in auto.
And then for going over the bump itself, are you looking at slowing down to go over the bump? Are you going to just send it? Like, what's kind of the thought process in auto specifically if you choose to go over it?
Yeah, right now it doesn't look like we're going to end up going over it in auto. If we do, I think that we've definitely seen that going diagonally over it helps a lot. Probably slowing down a little bit just so that we're making sure we're in contact with it the entire time. That's what I've shown here, is slowing down a little bit. But we're going to have to do more testing because we haven't done any testing yet with our final drivetrain. We've only done testing with like an off-season like demo drivetrain. One thing that we are considering is having some kind of like skates or skis on the bottom of the belly pan that will allow us to maybe not get stuck on the bump as often.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Wired Boars, thank you very much for giving us that update for it. You compete week 1, so I know you get a lot to do as you're getting ready for that. But we'll be checking with you shortly before that as well, too. So make sure you are following their build log. You can scan that QR code here on screen or find it on Cheap Delphi as well, too. But thanks a lot. Wish you best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. Founded by First alumni, FRC Tees understands what teams need. High-quality apparel fast. From t-shirts to jackets and more, with a free 14-day turnaround and faster options available, you can join 200-plus teams who are already saving. Get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frctees.com. Osh Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Osh Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or flat pattern to get started.